So Martin, our new student member is a few minutes late, but going to be here. But I think maybe I should go down and lead her through the process a little bit, because first timer might get confused. So I will be back in a moment.
That's great though. We got to see the member. I know we were looking for somebody for a while, right?
We're trying for a while, yeah. So very excited.
That's great.
Just got so many riders over there. So
Gosh, yes.
you guys ever want to see some
If you
heavy ridership, go over there around 3 o'clock on
Yeah.
a school day.
Yeah.
Bradley
I've been
Shop.
there.
7:30.
Or 7:30 in the morning. Yep, in your case, yep.
And
yep.
yeah, you know, I was dropping the car off to the dealer yesterday and I never go over there otherwise, but I saw us behind a couple of buses and the number of kids getting off right across the street from the high school was amazing. So
Yeah.
you guys always talk about it. That was the first time I actually experienced it.
Yeah,
That's pretty crazy. Have you seen some more articulated buses lately? 60 footers? Okay.
Actually, yeah, it's funny you say that. I have noticed that.
This last few
Yep.
weeks, they started to come back a little bit more because they were dead sidelined for a while.
Okay, yeah, I have.
Why were they?
That's
they
helped.
sidelight,
But I absolutely think so, because it seems to be
Oh,
there at the
sorry.
right place.
Yeah.
At the right time type thing. So, yeah, no, it seems to be, it's 5,000 students. I mean,
That's huge.
Yeah, but, why were the Arctic's sideline?
Just various issues.
Huh.
They were having trouble with them.
Huh.
Got 2 more coming through 395 commuter choice. So
Right,
hopefully we'll
right.
get a better batch, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not for another 18 months or so. So I'll be talking, we got 10 new buses coming in the next 2 months, but they are not, they're not electric, they're clean diesel.
Oh,
So
okay.
maybe a little more reliable, we'll see.
Yeah.
They will be 40 footers, so
Oh, okay,
that'll help
cool.
out a little bit with loads.
Yeah.
40 foot clean diesels or?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you said how many? Mark?
10,
10.
yeah, they're replacement buses.
Okay.
So we're phasing out some of the 35-foot Gilligs from 10, 12 years ago.
I was gonna say about how many years to get out of
Usually 12 is the useful life.
Yeah.
If you go past that, then you start to,
super high maintenance at that point.
yeah, and like for funding purposes, FTA considers that to be useful life. So if you keep them beyond that, you're kind of raising red flags and then, yeah.
That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
It's 5,000 students K through 12.
No, that's in high school.
It's just a high school.
That's.
That includes Mini Howard though, right?
It does, yeah, down the street.
Still, that's a huge number,
Yeah, Mini Howard's new campus is like a brand new high school, actually. It's not even a.
That new school is huge.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, they're not gonna open up like almost 2/3 of it though, because
Really?
it's more than what we need, yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
It's huge. I walk by it every day.
it's unfortunately too huge. Yeah, it's bigger than the need, the projected need even, especially with the walk back of the more recent numbers. So you'll be able to bounce around now, always have,
Yeah, well, that's good.
yeah, won't have to upgrade anytime soon.
Yeah, when, I know the old high school was really crowded. They had people almost in closets and stuff because of
Have you been in the new school, the new high school?
the current new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice. Yeah,
Yeah, it's nice, but with all those kids.
I've been in there at lunchtime and you'd think it'd be a little like
Crazy.
organized chaos, but it was actually, it's pretty, it wasn't that bad. No one was on top of each other. It's a lot of kids, but
Yeah.
it's pretty spacious. And my daughter, my oldest, goes there. She's a senior, so
Mhm.
it's a lot of kids. Oh, bye. Not many parking passes, put it that way. Only 150, I think.
Oh, yeah, take your butt, the bus.
Oh, the buses are busy.
Bus, yeah, well, there's gonna be yellow buses and dash, both, yeah.
This is Bonnie. I just want to make sure I'm in the right place.
Yes.
Yep, Bonnie, hey,
Okay.
Bonnie, it's Martin.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we're waiting for a couple more members to join us.
Okay,
Should be going a couple minutes here.
no problem.
What's the part of town the high schools in? Is that Rose? Is that
No.
Roseville?
It's kind of a weird.
Call it King Street, I mean, but it's,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really not, it's kind of in the middle, yeah.
they started calling it like Upper King Street, but then I guess that's part of Old Town as well, so
Yeah, it's
there's not really a good word, good
No, it's.
descriptor for it.
Bradley.
Bradley.
We'll,
Yeah, Bradley probably the best.
yeah, maybe, or like the seminary neighborhood was just south of there
Mhm.
where that was basically up to seminary. but-
Yeah, he's down.
The city's actually kicking off a project to kind of look at redesigning that segment of King Street, you guys might have heard about it,
Yeah.
it's basically from Quaker all the way up past Bradley to Minokin, so just
Right.
after Bradley.
Yeah,
And I think they called it like the Bradley King Street
Truly
project or something.
Uh-huh.
like that, so.
Yeah, I do.
Well, they've got that service road there, so they're kind of taking a holistic look at it, and trying to figure out if there's pedestrian improvements, if there's better
Did you ever
reconfiguring for
watch Parks
buses.
and Rec, the show? I
Maybe
just,
some
like,
sort of
kept texting
prioritization
and
for
said, "Was that
buses, we're
helpful?"
really pushing for that,
It's like,
considering how much service we pump through there and how much ridership we get. So they tried to look at it a couple of years ago as part of a smart scale grant
Came to talk
application,
about people,
and
like,
they got a lot
you
of
know,
pushback,
and stuff
so
like
they
that.
had to withdraw
Right.
the application. So now they're gonna try and
Going on and on about,
reopen
like,
that conversation, I think.
opposite
Were you
activities.
Do they have the money for that yet?
It's like great.
No.
Important.
No, this is just a really preliminary conceptual discussion about what the vision is for that part of King Street.
The city had applied for a grant before, gotten the grant, was starting the community meetings to talk about it. And, yeah, there was some pushback that there was no public meetings before the grant application and nobody asked for this money, and so give it back.
Oh,
Gave it
geez.
back and is now starting the public outreach before asking for new grant money for it.
Which grant?
This is the King Bradley area,
The
potential
Minokan.
redesign. But potentially repurposing the service road for trees or.
I think they were starting the outreach this week or the week, next week.
I think it started
Have you seen
last week.
emails?
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
they
well,
started-
It seems like there's a
It's-
few posts.
It was gonna happen that day that we had that horrible rainstorm, and then they rescheduled it for last weekend. And it was at the Bradley Shopping Center and a couple of churches. And I don't know how much feedback they got, but I gave them about 15 minutes worth.
Yeah, the online portion is open until I think October 20th.
Okay, good. We'll be sending that out via dash channels too.
It's Dash talking, there's the city TDS talking directly to you.
Yeah, we did a site visit there.
Because Bonnie and I walked that from the Safeway, past the
Hi,
shopping
guys.
center.
I'm in a
Try
meeting
and
right now.
picture, she'll sometimes take the bus there to do her shopping at the Safeway. And to catch the westbound bus,
Yeah, there's no stop there.
There's no stop. You gotta walk all the way up to the McDonald's.
Right, exactly.
By the time I do that, I may as well just walk home.
and
Yeah.
so the issue was, how could it be redesigned to better serve people?
Yeah, definitely.
Especially if the service road's repurposed or, I mean, I've got some ideas of repurposing out. If we have time at the end, sort of the members' comments or whatever, I was gonna ask you to comment on.
Yeah.
Sort of, what do you wanna see, what do you Dash wanna see come out of this?
Yeah.
And how can we support that?
Yeah, I can talk about that later if you wanna wait till
Yeah,
everyone gets
that'd
here.
Cause it's
We lose so
got a lot
much,
of stuff going on.
yeah, and we lose so much time from a travel time standpoint going through there on the service road. It's just all the congestion, all the lights.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
And we pump so much service through there. We have, 2 frequent routes going through there and they get caught up so much that it affects the whole other parts of the route over to Potomac Yard and in Old Town. So, yeah, we could benefit a lot if they were to make some capital improvements that help buses there.
Yeah, from a pedestrian safety standpoint, I mean, I look at it as how can we minimize the number of interactions? There potential for interactions, so.
Yeah.
It sounds like that would help the buses as well, you have fewer lights.
For sure, yeah. I know they're trying to kind of connect some of the missing sidewalks in that area too. There's a couple large gaps that, especially on the, what is that, the east side of King Street.
Yeah, do you know if the city is engaging Arlington
They
residents on
are,
this?
yeah, they are. In a limited fashion, I think, but they are. I gave them some contact information for the civic associations on the other side of the street there in Fairleigton.
Well, yeah, and the other problem is there's a bus stop at that McDonald's, and if you're going west, there's no way, you shouldn't cross this, I mean, we do, but you shouldn't cross the service road there because there's no light. What you have to do is walk east up to the shopping center by the bank and
Yeah.
cross it there.
Yeah, and they installed that crosswalk probably 3 or 4 years ago and fixed that curb a little bit, but nobody uses it because of, you know, what you say, you have to
Because it's
kind of
not the
walk,
direct
you have to
path.
walk all the way out of the way, and everybody just cuts
Right.
across. Yeah. It's a nice looking crosswalk, it's just too bad. Yeah. Does that area flood very often with that, I know they've got that median,
What's
I
that?
think so. Actually,
flooding's not an issue over there?
I've been, I shop at Safeway quite a bit and use the bus, and I don't think I've ever seen
Those stormwater issues, okay.
Yeah,
there being a flooding.
I mean, there are lots of issues that go in with flooding, but Episcopal High School, which is obviously right near there, is the highest point of land in Alexandria.
Is it really? Okay.
So,
Yeah,
so that shopping center is down just a little bit from that,
but still up.
But-
high.
it's still pretty high point in Alexandria.
This school's the one that's like across Braddock from Minnie Howard, is that right?
Yes,
Well, you just,
yeah, and as you go west
Yeah, it goes
on
up
Braddock,
a little bit.
Minnie Howard on the right, the football field area, somebody did a survey and it's the highest ground level part of Alexandria. And that's kind of where Bonnie lives, and we bike a lot, and so it's always a climb to get home,
yeah.
get her home.
So that if you start there, you're
Yeah, yeah.
downhill
It's
wherever you
always
go.
downhill, you know.
It's great when you start.
Yeah, right.
Catch the bus coming back. I actually got an email from Episcopal Head of Security who was asking about potential bus routing changes that could better serve their campus.
Really?
So, yeah, it's tough. There's not much you can do that wouldn't detract from other.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they've got the 36B that goes, or 36A that goes on Braddock onto Early Street there, which is
Mhm.
sort of close.
But it's.
That's over on Seminary.
It's on Seminary, it's not
Yeah.
too frequent.
Yeah, and I mean, a couple of years ago before, I mean, with the Minnie Howard campus moving to where it is now is very convenient because they're much closer to King Street now.
Mhm,
So there's less of a reason to send something down Braddock Road.
mhm.
The Metrobus 28A used to go down Braddock Road, but that changed with the new Dash network, so they did lose service.
Okay.
But you wouldn't want to do something that would take away service from Bradley or King Street. Tough.
Well, you can get to Bradley from Braddock Road too.
Yeah, just Marley Way.
Yeah. Well, or there's a little parking lot and you cut through there. There's a little vacuum cleaner store there and there's kind of a little aisle between the stores you can get through and you end up right at Bradley.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our fall meeting of the Dash Advisory Committee. It is my pleasure to introduce Sama El Gorshal,
Hi, everyone.
who is our first student member.
Morning, you all. I can't wait to start this. I'm very excited, so very nervous, but I know it's gonna be great. Thank you so much for having me.
Why don't you just spend like 2 minutes, just sort of telling the folks a little bit about you, and then we'll proceed from there.
So my name is Samuel Gorshal. I am 17. I am a senior at AC. I was told about this opportunity, this great opportunity by Mr. Birch, who has worked with me on many committees in AC and put me in contact with Martin Marna. You know, I shared hi, nice meeting you. And got to know him, got to know what the DAC is about, and I just told him how I live in the west end of the routes I take and and he told me what I will do as a student representative, and it sounded like a great opportunity to give back to my community and work with others and had just network, and thank God I got the position.
Welcome.
Great, well, welcome, thank you. So Martin, may we do a roll call now then, please?
Sure. Do that. Let me pull that right up. All right. Got Mr. Durham.
Here.
Mr. El Nubi. Mr. Gahar.
Country. Country, like a fudger, sludger, trudger.
Okay. Yvette is here. Sorry about that. Jason here. Mr. McManus. I think he was going to try and join online. I did send him a link. So hopefully he'll be able to join us. Mr. Maslanka here. Chair Simmons
Here.
Mr. Van Horn. Ms. O'Day.
Here,
Mr. Coulomb. Ms. Phelps. And Ms. Elgorshaw. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you do.
Thank you. Very excited to have you here.
Okay. You had attached to your meeting agenda, if you looked at your meeting invitation, some minutes that were taken at the last meeting. Does anyone have a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting? And are there any amendments or corrections anyone wants to make? So Jason moved, Jim second, okay? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved. So now we will go to Martin for a series of updates. He provided us some slides earlier in the afternoon for those who had an opportunity to take a look. And then we'll get to a number of issues that various members of the DAC asked be brought forward during this meeting as well. So please, floor is yours, Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome, everyone. I am going to go through a couple of just general updates, as Chair Simmons mentioned. Simon's mentioned. I cannot believe I did that again. I'm so sorry.
No worries. Simon's tomato.
Oh my goodness. All right, let's just get to the content here. First up, just to recap, the Operator Rodeo happened on Sunday. We also had our awards picnic. They were held right out here at Dash. We'll be posting some photos on social media if we haven't already, but it was a great success. Had 150 staff and family show up. We had crowned our rodeo winners. We got our 4 guys that are going to advance to the state rodeo. So we're excited about that, and had some great recognition for all of our employees. So really excited that we were able to do that. Fall 2023 service improvements. These are some improvements that we've been trying to do for the last couple of months. We're finally implementing them on Sunday, this coming Sunday, October 8th. This is the line 33 Sunday frequency improvements, where it's going from every 60 minutes to every 30 minutes. Line 33 is the route that runs through Delray, Arlandria, connects Potomac Yard to King Street Metro. So an important route there. And with this change, we only have one route now that's running hourly on Sundays, on weekends, the 32. So we're trying to bring that off-peak service up to at least every 30 minutes. This is a step in that direction. We also have some timetable adjustments on lines 31 and 36. Those are kind of tweaking the schedules. A lot of our timetables today are based on running times that were formulated back in September 2021 when we launched the new network. Obviously, traffic and activity levels are a lot different now than they were then. So we're trying to kind of grapple with that, because we've had some reliability challenges on the 36 specifically, but other routes as well. So hopefully these changes will help stem those a little bit. And then also with this 33 change, so the 33 Sunday schedule will now be the same as the 33 Saturday schedule. So it's kind of just a weekday schedule and a weekend schedule. That's the same case as we have on the 36 and the 30. So we now have some more consistency where it's just a weekday schedule and a weekend schedule, which we think helps legibility. I'd be curious if you guys have feedback, if that's easier than having a Saturday and a Sunday separate schedule. Is that kind of a positive direction that we're moving in?
Much easier to remember.
Yes.
Okay, good. And it kind of saves us some space in our ride guides too. So added bonus there. But yeah, so that's kind of the direction we're headed in.
So in terms of frequency,
Mhm.
you have the issue, you're not starting as of, I guess, yesterday, the changes around the metro station and the Amtrak station at Callahan Drive, which the city is undertaking improvements. So
Right.
how are we gonna deal with that in terms of the bus schedule, because that's gonna be a major.
Yes,
kerfuffle.
so we've been involved, that project has been in the planning stages for like 3 or 4 years, it seems like. They're finally getting started on it. What we've been told with, they're currently formulating their MOT, which is the maintenance of traffic plan, where they kind of show how they're gonna keep traffic flowing through there. We have been told all along that there's not gonna be any full closures, it's gonna be partial closures, and that traffic will be kept moving through there. We are gonna monitor the running times as we go through. We do have a lot of service going through that intersection, especially with like the 30s going around there. So we may have to adjust, but we'll be monitoring that situation.
Thank you.
But for those that don't know, they're doing a project to improve a lot of the pedestrian safety there, kind of extend the sidewalks out in some places, just make it a much safer intersection than it is right now. So that's the one right in front of the Masonic Temple. Any other questions on the service improvements? The 33 is the improvement that City Council added through their add delete process that a lot of folks in this room were big advocates for. So we're really grateful that we're finally gonna be able to implement that and see it.
I have a question.
Sure.
Regarding lines 31, 36 A, B, I know a lot of students that go to AC, they take those lines, I take those lines. Is it about like the frequency on how fast these buses will come?
So good question. The frequency is not gonna be changing on those. The 36 will still be every 15 minutes, AB kind of offset, and then 31 will still be every 10 to 15 minutes. So the frequencies are not changing, but the running times, when I say running times, that's basically like when we set up a schedule, there are time points, and the amount of time it takes to get from one time point to the next is part of the running times. So we have to monitor traffic to kind of see if it's 6 minutes, 8 minutes, 12 minutes, and adjust that as traffic dictates. So we're just changing those running times, not the frequency.
Martin, when the council was debating the add and delete for the line 33 Sunday frequency improvement, one of the council members questioned, are we really, in terms of bang for the buck, do we get that much out of improving Sunday service as opposed to improving weekday service? Obviously, the majority of council went on and voted to go ahead and do this because Dash had put it, I think, as the #1 priority. But do you have any comment on that in terms of, going forward, the last year's priority list for Dash had another Sunday service increment as the next priority.
Yeah.
Are we really gonna get as much value out of that? I tend to think so, but I'd like to hear your thoughts.
So you're asking for in terms of looking towards FY25 budget or just?
Yeah, and then for the next budget, if we have $110,000, is it better to increase Sunday service or the routes that need? And maybe you can discuss that later on.
Yeah, and you reminded me, I misspoke slightly earlier when I said that only one route remains hourly on weekends. The 34 was the second improvement. We did not get that one, so that one is still 60 minutes on Sundays. And then the 32, obviously. But I would say, our strategy for the budget this past year was based on a recognition that we were asking for a lot. And so we wanted to at least try and keep moving forward with our transit vision plan implementation and being cognizant that the Potomac Yard Metro Station was open. We thought we could kind of include some small improvements that would improve access to the Metro Station 33 and 34. If you're asking for, if money was not an object, what would be our top priority? I think we might have a slightly different answer. So there is some strategic decision-making there, and we'll be kind of discussing with this group in the coming months and discussing internally and with the city, what the budget picture is looking like. And if we feel like we have a better outlook for next year, then I think we would, be a little more aggressive. Because like we've said, we're still, it's almost 2024 and we still have not implemented 2022 Alexandria Transit Vision Plan. So, we're behind where we want to be. Sure. But I think we're still, you had asked last meeting as well about the line 32, specifically of Van Dorn, to kind of landmark portion of that route. And I think that's still actively being looked at. So, at latest by next staff meeting, we should have something to share with you on that.
Yeah, and Josh mentioned to me at the celebration of the King Street Metro, that he's heard from the business community that they really need line 32 to help the Eisenhower corridor develop to its potential.
Yeah.
And I was coming from it more from a line 32, the highest value from an equity standpoint is that service part up through Holmes Run and Parkway area.
Yep.
But anyway, go ahead.
Okay. All right, any other questions on the service changes? I did want to highlight that we are having an onboard rider survey. This is something that we do every 5 years or so. That's required by our FTA, the Federal Transit Administration, now that we're getting some funding from them, but also from our state agency, DRPT, the Department of Rail and Public Transit. So an onboard rider survey is basically, we'll have a survey crew. We've contracted out consultant, and they're gonna have survey teams on dash buses with tablets and paper surveys, asking questions about riders, what their ridership patterns are, demographic questions, kind of learning who's really getting a much deeper dive into who's riding our service. So you might see them on the buses, they'll have some special vests on, say WBA. They'll start next week is when they're starting. They'll be going up until Thanksgiving. So we're hoping to get some really good data from that. This will be a much more comprehensive survey. You might remember we did one around this time last year. That was kind of a more in-house one. It was more online, which is always going to be skewed. So we're excited this will be more representative of who's actually riding. So yes.
What language will it be available in, and will the crew?
Yeah, so we English, Spanish, and Amharic are what we're doing.
I feel like I say this in every meeting that I'm at these days, but I would, if there's any way to get Dari Pashto, because it's just, I think in ACPS it's actually surpassed Arabic, and it's like
Yeah, it's
equal
surpassed
or more
Amharic too.
surpassed Amharic.
Yeah, a lot of AC, especially we have like in the middle schools and obviously the high school, we have something called International Academy. A lot of the people in the International Academy now, it used to be like before COVID, mainly people of Hispanic descent, people who came here, that immigrated here, but now with the things that have happened in Afghanistan, they're taking up a lot of the places in International Academy. So those two languages are the most spoken, and a lot they ride the buses a lot. Like whenever I'm waiting for the bus, I mainly just see like people of those demographics there. So I feel like we should make it more inclusive to them.
Yeah, it's a great suggestion. In your experience, are the students that speak that, are they also pretty fluent in English or?
Some of them, it depends on, like I've met some refugees, like they're little refugees who came here from those cargo planes when the Taliban took over. They already knew some English, but there are some that don't know anything. And it's still like, people, they have different abilities when it comes to learning stuff. Some people are better at learning a language than others. So I feel like Dari and Passion, I feel like that would be very accessible for them.
Okay.
And a lot of them, they're still struggling. Like my mom, she's also a property manager in the West End. She works with Morgan Properties. So she takes care of like about 3 properties, and a lot of the people coming in renting are Afghan refugees who are like getting aid from the state government and private funds. And a lot of them, they don't have cars, so they have to rely on public transit. So I feel like adding those 2 languages would be a great thing.
Do you have the opportunity to modify this at this
Unfortunately
stage or not?
Unfortunately for the survey, it's going to be too late, but
Okay.
going forward in outreach, that's extremely helpful.
Okay.
I can say that we do have close ties with several nonprofit groups that are based out of the West End. Raft, I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. I think there's one other that I'm forgetting. Ethiopian Council of Community Development. They've kind of gone a little quiet, but we do have some connections that we can work through, and they can potentially help get the word out about these surveys and help us in that way.
And I can also, if you guys need any help with outreach, I can also let my mom know if there's any flyers. We can put them in
That'd be great. Yeah.
in the what's it called, the office that she work at. She takes care of Bennington Properties, and she takes care of Stone Ridge,
Oh, cool.
and she takes care of the shops at Mark Center. So
A lot of riders.
yeah.
Thank you very much. All right, there's Dari and Pashtu. Thank you very much.
I just have one other question
Sure.
on the survey in terms of like like, is it just sort of structured to have this, the consultants or the crew on like at various times throughout the like hours of operation?
So what they've done is they've looked at our ridership patterns, broken down by early AM, peak, midday, PM peak, weekends, et cetera, and our ridership for each route during those periods. And they have developed a data sampling plan so that they'll get a representative number of samples from those based on the ridership.
That's great. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions I see is that there's a lot of perception that like people are mostly just riding the bus during rush hour, and that has not been my experience at all. So glad to hear it.
And Martin, this will incorporate, you've added questions specifically to get to the zero fare feedback that for your annual report?
Right, yeah, so that was one of the questions, might have been you that asked it, on the status of our fare free report. We had our first one last year, we're doing another one, but there are, I think, 3, maybe 4 questions that ask about fare free and how that's affecting ridership. So how that stacks up against other factors like frequency of service, and things like that. So yes, that will inform, that will be used for our fare free report, and maybe I can just address it now, but the fare free report, we're gonna wait until we get that survey results, probably in December.
Yeah, because one of the more common questions with the rollout on September 21 of both the higher frequency routes and free fare is which accounts for,
Right, yeah.
which is the bigger impact? Obviously, they're working together.
Yeah.
We heard the mayor's view last time we met on that subject. But yeah, the degree to which we can get rider feedback on the frequency, hopefully that's incorporated as well.
There's a question that asks like which factors are most
Yeah,
impactful.
that'd be great.
I forget the wording, but in your decision to ride, there's 10 factors and they're asked, I think, rank them. So or pick 2 or 3 that are the most
That's great,
important.
thanks.
Yeah, Martin, what other means does Dash use to solicit rider feedback? Like, is there an online survey or are there other?
Yeah, so we try to do surveys when we can. We did one last year that was really helpful and helped us with the fare free questions. We obviously have our call center. We get a lot of feedback through that. We have email, we have social media. One thing that we've really been trying to do, and I'm holding off now on it because I don't want to have 2 surveys going on at once, but we want to have QR codes on all of our buses that are just a really simple 2-3 question survey. Hey, you see at the airport, the happy, sad face, just click this, answer 2 or 3 questions. And then, oh, hey, if you have a few extra minutes, here's a bunch of demographic questions about like kind of more about you. So we can learn more, like what route you're riding. Well, that's actually part of the first part. But anyway, so that'll help give us a lot more data in terms of how we're doing. Because we look at our monthly KPIs, one of them is customer service. And a lot of that is based on the number of complaints we get and the number of commendations we get. And those are so volatile in terms of like people are having a bad day or we get one compliment and that really skews it positively because those don't come very often. So we want something that's a little more larger sample size, I'll say. So that's what we're working on with that.
So have you tested how long this survey takes to be completed?
Are you talking about the QR survey?
No, the
other one.
onboard rider survey.
That it is a concern. It's about, if you include all the questions, it's close to 28 to 30 questions.
No,
That's a lot.
nobody's ever gonna go.
All the Pentagon riders are gonna be all in.
I know. The survey team is trained to kind of know which questions they have to skip through. Some of them are contingent on if you say you answer this for one
Yeah,
question.
right,
then-
halfway questions, yeah.
So it won't be that many. And I think that they're trained that there are certain key questions that they really want to get. So if it gets cut off early, they have to get this in order for it to be considered a valid survey. So, we have a lot of information we're trying to get. This is a huge opportunity. This is, according to the survey consultant, this is pretty standard to have 30 questions. So they feel pretty confident they can get a good sample with that, but they have minimum samples they have to get. So however long that takes, it
Did
takes.
they say what the minimum samples were? Because I don't think the high schoolers are gonna have that like
Yeah.
attention span. Just based as a high schooler, we don't have that.
As the mom of a high schooler.
Don't worry.
The minimum sample size is based, like we were talking about earlier, it's based on like the time of day and the route so that we get a positive, so we can go and look that, okay, if we want to ask a question about line 33 AM peak riders, we have a decent sample for that. If we want to look at, line 36 Saturday riders, we've got a decent sample for that. So it's kind of distributed based on ridership levels. One thing, and I'm gonna mess up the details, but there's if they are not able to finish the survey, I think there's a way that the surveyor can give them a link or a QR code to finish the survey at home or on their own at their own discretion. So
Yeah, because I was thinking about what if you get to your bus stop before the survey's done?
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they have ways to kind of make sure that we don't lose that, because this is a very labor intensive process to have people out on buses. And it takes a lot of coordination to get them on the right buses, to get that sampling plan in a short 5 or 6 week period. So and we'll be reviewing the results as they come in to make sure we've got, enough. If we're not getting enough, line 31 responses, then we'll put some more resources into that midway through.
Just not open up the doors until they're done.
That might skew your
Yeah.
customer satisfaction.
Maybe bribe them with candy.
Candy, you think that's the way to go? Okay. All
This
right.
is kind of getting like really in the weeds, but
Okay.
when you have a rider who didn't have time to complete the survey and they are given a QR code, does it track back to that individual rider? So
Yes.
it's like, okay, got it.
And there's always paper surveys, they can take them with them, and it comes with a self-addressed envelope and all that, so.
It sounds like it's, the benchmark for this FTA survey is more so last year's in-house surveys, not the one 5 years ago,
The benchmark in terms of like,
for the upcoming onboard survey.
yeah, the one last year was just kind of one we did on our own, just because we were getting all these questions about free fares, and we wanted to see, why people were riding and what their habits were. That was just kind of something we did on our own, but this is kind of more conforming to the standards of a traditional survey like this.
Yeah.
Okay, last thing I was gonna say in my general updates was we got, we talked about this earlier with a few of you, but we got 10 new buses that are gonna be arriving in the next 6 weeks or so. We actually have a crew up in Minnesota. Actually, that top right picture was taken earlier today up in Minnesota, St. Cloud, Minnesota, the New Flyer plant. So we have 10 new Flyer 40-foot buses. They are clean diesel. Probably some of the last clean diesels we'll be buying. But they are arriving in the next couple weeks here. They will replace a couple of our 35-foot Gilligs that were purchased back in 2010, 2012. So have some nice shiny new buses. They will have new destination signs that I want to highlight. We have a pilot going on with one of our buses, bus 703. If you've seen it, it has colored destination signs. This is a new manufacturer we're using, and all 10 buses will have these new signs. They are higher resolution, so hopefully easier to see. We're able to have colors, which is helpful sometimes. We do have route colors. They're not always used, but we do have them in the ride guide on our website. So you may start to see those a bit. They're also a lot easier currently with our destination signs. We have to go around with a USB drive. Anytime we want to update the destination signs, every bus, these new signs allow us to do it via Wi-Fi. So a lot easier for our technical staff.
And the transit app uses all the colors.
That's right, it does, yeah.
Yeah, which is fantastic.
Right.
Sorry, I just jumped in.
No,
You
no, it's
actually
fine,
raised
no,
your
it's
hand.
fine. Wait, so he kind of answered my question. Dash does have a transit app, right?
We do, yeah. we
And
are
it tracks the maps, okay.
So we have, so we are, the transit app uses our feed. We also have the bus tracker, the dash tracker, which is a website, but it's mobile friendly. So that's our number one thing that we push people towards, because that's coming straight from our data sources. That's the most accurate data, but we have transit app as well.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask that because like a lot of AC students, they do ride the dash bus, and a lot of us we use like the Google Maps one where it kind of tracks, and it's not really the best.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Yeah.
recommend. We've been having issues. It's very hard once we hear about issues with Google. They're not very responsive. Little dash.
So I'm love the Dash app, but I'll bet the transit app. I've been living out of that thing for like 5 years now, and I used the heck out of it the last few weeks. You literally are a bus expert. You can go anywhere, just hit where you want to go, and you're good to go.
I can a lot
It
of
links everything
a
too.
lot of students don't know
Train.
about this. They have to rely on Google Maps, but I can, if you guys are cool with it, I can email the lady who takes care of Canvas notifications at school, and then do the announcements on the PA. Just let them know that like, hey kids, Dash has a router app that can track that can track like the maps.
That would be great. We might have some other information we want to include in that as well. So maybe if you could just kind of connect me with her and you could.
Yeah, of course,
you could
of course.
be CC'd, we could kind of.
Canvas is a great idea. That's cool.
Because we have this, because you know how we use Canvas every day, so it doesn't pull up to like the class that we're at. We just pull it up and it says student resources announcements, and it's just announcements from like the leadership teachers and, you know, Miss Moran. She's the one that runs everything. So there's a lot of like important information, whether it's citywide information, school information, or even national things like, you know, competitions. And that's where we get all of our like info. So I feel like that'd be a good thing, because I didn't know about this till today, honestly.
That'd be great, yeah.
Maureen, you said that the preference is to drive users to the web-based browser, not to the app.
We don't have an official partnership with Transit App.
Oh, okay.
Some agencies do, like MBT in
Oh, I didn't know it
Boston.
was a third party. Okay, got it.
I mean, it's a third party. I mean, candidly, they have a really great interface, very easy to use. I mean, I use it myself. But yeah, we advertise our bus
You're
driver.
almost, yeah. Home.
You're talking about the general transit app that you can use wherever you go outside of Alexandria, right?
Yes.
Or is there a special one? Is there a specific one for Dash?
No, we're a part of, they take our real-time data and it's part of their main platform.
Oh,
just-
so
yeah.
so that transit app is real time?
Yes,
Oh, it is. Okay. I didn't know that. I thought that it was just scheduled.
Oh, you get to watch the bus come to you.
Yep.
I do that.
Well, then
Hey,
I
Martin.
I might have the wrong app. I'll converse with you later, Martin. I don't need to take up time now, but
it's a green app with a squiggly logo, kind of, yeah,
okay.
yep. So that's a terrible description, but.
Hey, Martin, Matt McManus, I have another question. Thank you. When would we get the new electric buses, which I know it's a great story. We got something like 15 of them through the federal and state and 395 help.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, 13 through FTA and 2 through the NVTC commuter choice.
Good work.
It usually takes about 18 months from order to delivery. So I think we'd be looking about, the order has already been put in. We've got our hold in our production spot. I think it would be looking at late next year is when we'd be looking at.
And who will be making them?
That's going to be determined.
Right, because Proterra's having some problems. Okay, thank you.
And that's what, when you said it was like, these are the last clean diesels we'll buy, it's because going forward, it's gonna shift over to all, okay.
Right. Our intent is by 2037 to be full fleet conversion. And get a 12-year lifespan of a bus. So we can't buy many more if they last 12 years.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
Okay. All right. I was just going to show you the ridership graph. Again, good news. This shows the last 3 fiscal years. You can see FY21 was COVID. So this is the monthly ridership that we saw. FY22, we introduced the new network, free fares right here. We saw Omicron dip, but we continued to trend upwards. Then FY23 last fiscal year was when we had our record 4.5 million boardings. You can see the first couple of months of FY24, July and August, we're actually above what we did last year with that record. So fingers crossed if that continues. We're in for another great year. Looking very good so far. The month of August was 447,000 boardings, which was the second highest month in Dash history. So that's for August. Which is usually a little.
How do you guys record like the boardings? It's like a little step thing when you step on the bus.
Yes.
It's like, oh.
Yes, so there's basically 2 different ways that we use right now. One is the drivers have a button that they press, which, you know, when you've got a crush load, when you got hundreds of students coming at once, it's hard to be accurate with that. But we also have what's called APCs. Those are kind of video sensors that are above each door on every bus we have. And so they track the ons and the offs. Yeah, so we are in the process of shifting. We're hoping in the next few months, we will no longer have to have the drivers pressing buttons. We're validating and certifying the APCs. And we'll be able to rely on those once we've done that. So those are the 2 main ways we do it. Okay. All right, and then I forgot I had this one too. So bus stop improvements has been a major emphasis, point of emphasis for the last year or so. We are making small steps. We have worked with the city on about a dozen different stops in Old Town North, Arlandria, and Del Rey, and Park Center, I should say. These are stops that just need a little splotch of concrete to bring up to ADA standards. That's a picture of one. That's Cora Kelly Elementary. We put a pad in there, a nice big pad that'll have the front and back doors we'll be able to use. And we have about 10 other sites with similar work that's been done. It's been completed in the last few weeks, thanks to our friends at TESS. So that's exciting. We've also got a couple other things we're working on. We've got, it was just announced from our state agency, DRPT, that they're doing a mid-cycle grant for this fiscal year, which means that usually the grants aren't until January that we submit, but now they have a mid-cycle grant for the TRIP Transit Ridership Improvement Program, which is also where we get our free fare funding from. It's for bus stop and facility improvements. So we are working with the city to put together a application that would allow us to put some bus shelters into Landmark Mall, which we are tentatively calling the West Alexandria Transit Center because the West End is very confusing. What the city is trying to do here is they got a big grant from Smart Scale for the long-term transit center at Landmark. I'm going to call it Landmark Mall, just force of habit. So they got a large grant from Smart Scale for the long-term transit center. It's going to be architecturally designed. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be world-class. But that's not going to be ready for the first couple of years of when Landmark Mall West End is open. So there's going to be a period where we've got this transit street, this beautiful 6-bay transit street, urban style, and we don't have the shelters yet. We currently have a parking lot there, which, you know, it's a temporary thing, obviously. So what this would fund is purchase of the standard city shelters, the newer ones that you see around town, would fund the purchase of those. They would be, we're still getting approval from DRPT on this, but they would be used for about 2 years. And then when the full-blown, more expensive, fancier transit center is put in, those shelters will be relocated to various other parts of West Alexandria. So that's the city docket is going to city council in a couple weeks here, but that's what the city is going to be applying for. This was a little bit short notice. We only found out about this grant about 3 weeks ago, and we had to put together a docket memo. There will be more opportunities in FY25 for the same program, so we are planning to be much more aggressive with it in FY25 when we have more time to do outreach, because we have a lot of bus stop numbers that we're trying to do that would be able to be eligible based on this funding. Questions?
So you indicated that it might be useful, right, to have a letter of support from this committee to accompany this grant application. How soon do you need that letter? ASAP?
The deadline is towards the end of this month.
Okay.
They did indicate, I think city council will not be hearing this item until sometime next month. So the resolutions and letters of support can come in after the deadline. So we do have some time, but it would be helpful if in the next couple of weeks that we had something.
Okay.
Do you need a motion?
Yes.
I'd like to move that the DAC write a letter of support for the bus stop improvement grant for West Alexandria Transit.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. We have a second. Any discussion?
I do have a question.
Sure.
So when it comes to is this going to be for all the bus stops in general, or is it just going to be these locations?
At the landmark facility.
Oh, just
So
landmark
there's
facility.
6 bays at Landmark Mall. The way that we're thinking that we'll have double shelters at each
Yeah.
one, which is what we have at Metro Station. There's gonna be 12 shelters.
Yeah.
So once we get move forward with the permanent design, those 12 shelters would be distributed to you know, various stops around the west side of Alexandria based on ridership and spacing.
Yeah, here's where I was going to go with that. Is, and somebody, you know, I mentioned this with some fellow bus riders the other day, a couple of weeks ago, is I was talking about the bus stops. Well, 70% of Alexandria is residential. So there's a concern about what these bus stops look like, because it could take away from what makes Alexandria Alexandria. And so I think, so if it's going to be, if it's anything to do with that, I'd be concerned. But if it's not going to have anything to do with stops in residential areas, then okay, that's great.
Well, I mean, we would distribute them, so I'll back up for a second. We're doing as you guys might remember, we did a bus stop inventory project
Correct.
8 months ago, where we assessed every single
Yes,
stop.
yes.
I remember I did a presentation to this group, our guy on a bicycle with a
Yes,
laptop,
yeah.
tough book. So we've assessed every single stop in the city for accessibility, amenities, how much it would take to bring up to ADA accessibility,
Yeah.
and then we obviously have ridership data that we couple that with. So we're developing a prioritization list that would identify where, which stops are most deserving or warranted for a shelter or bench or whatever it might be. So, we'd be looking at higher ridership stops, and obviously equity would be a factor as well. So, we're not looking at, stops that only have 2 or 3 boardings in the middle of a suburban development.
A huge bus, yeah. they're
Oh, and we'd
huge.
also be looking at frequency, so more
Yeah.
frequent routes.
Okay.
So I'm not sure,
No, it answers-
it
it
would
does.
end up, there would be residential areas that it would end up in, but they would
Yeah.
be areas that are well patronized by
I mean,
buses.
line 35 is so significantly higher ridership than any other ride. The next closest is Duke Street that'll get shelters with the transitway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it'd be hard to picture these going anywhere other than line 35 if we're
Okay.
doing it based on high ridership and high usage of stops.
No, I appreciate the indulgence. on
And
that.
so would that alleviate your concern?
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, absolutely.
Solomon, you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to second that. Line 35 doesn't really have much shelters. I feel, me personally, there should be one at the Nova stop. For some reason, every time I connect there, the sun is just glaring straight at my face, and I'm there for like 30 minutes. Not 30, but it feels like 30 minutes. So I feel like a shelter would be awesome there.
Question, just sidebar. We installed a real-time sign inside the lobby there. Like kind of just when you go in the door, what is that building there? Bisdorf building or there should be a screen there. Does that still work? I haven't checked it in a while.
The one at the bus stop I go to, it's like right in front of the garage.
Oh, okay. So, the 35, I got you. Okay, I got you. So that will be a future West End Transitway stop, the one on Beauregard. So it will have a shelter. This might take a couple of years, unfortunately. The city, yeah, it's very frustrating. The city has, city's responsible for bus stops and they have a bus shelter installation program. However, they're relying on some federal funding and it just takes a long time to get through that approval process. They have to go through NEPA, they have to go through full procurement, and it takes a long time. But I think this DRPT grant program, as well as some of the other things we're working on, are allowing us to kind of move things along faster. So hopefully we can get at least some shelters in the near term.
Yvette, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was gonna say, is the landmark shelter part of the package of the Duke Street Transitway? Or in other words, are we using the trip money so that we could relieve the budgetary pressure from Duke Street?
So I think for the Duke Street project, there's a couple different grants at play here. There's the trip, which is just kind of a smaller near-term thing. There's the Duke Street 87 million. And there's also a landmark transit center grant. So my recollection is that the Duke Street did not include any money towards that landmark transit center because that has its own grant. So there's 3 separate pots of money we're talking about here.
This is kind of a sidebar, but I just want to understand. Is this $87 like $87 million? Sorry, 87 million. Is it like a grant from the federal government, or is it like from tax money from Alexandria?
Do you want to answer that one for Duke Street?
Because I just heard 87 million.
The 87 million Duke Street money?
Yeah.
State,
It's state money.
Virginia state.
That is
Virginia State.
Virginia, Northern Virginia Transit Association, NVTA, provided that money, which is state transportation money. It's not, it's a longer story that I won't go into, but most jurisdictions apply for federal money for projects like that, and the city of Alexandria decided not to for Duke Street.
Okay, we have a motion on the table and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll get together with you, Martin. We'll get a letter out.
All right, thank you very much.
Just a little aside, the first bullet, the bus stop accessibility improvements, what pot of money did that come from? Because that sounds like a brand new pot, but well, what is it's not state or federal, but
So that's local.
that was just local.
That is, there's some, I think with some complete streets funding that might, this is the same source of money we use for some, you see some of the stop improvements up at Potomac Yard.
Yeah.
We had to move some shelters, kind of some temporary facilities. Where else did we do work for that? So we had to call out the concrete trucks and move some shelters. So there was a stop. So this whole thing was started because there was a stop on North Pitt, just south of Montgomery, where the curb was falling apart. It wasn't ADA accessible. It's right catty corner to the ABC store, if you can picture that. So they were gonna have to bring a cement truck out to fix that curb and to put a pad in. And once you bring a cement truck out, you might as well get a couple stops while you're doing it. So that's what this came out of. So we identified 10 other stops, and they were gonna do that with this complete streets funding. It also funded some Potomac Yard.
It's basically local funds.
It's all local funds. Okay, and the last was just King Street. I think we might have mentioned this last time, but we're working with the city to improve the flow of buses and bus stop amenities in Old Town on King Street, because we have so much service going through there and so much ridership. We have so many stops that are not ADA accessible. There you have to weave through parked cars, and it's just terrible, especially if you have a mobility device. So we're working with the city to first, we're gonna probably consolidate some stops, because we do have a lot of stops that are kind of right after each other, which slows buses down quite a bit and affects reliability for other parts of the city. So there's probably gonna be some stop consolidation that we'll be proposing, but then once we figured out where the stops are gonna go, then we'll also be proposing bulb outs, which are where the curbs kind of extend out into the street, so the buses don't have to pull over the curb. They just stay in the travel lane. And that'll allow us to have more benches, more amenities, more shelters. So that's a project we're working on with the city. We'll probably have some proposals for that in the next couple months. We're probably, phase one is probably gonna be some stop consolidations early next year.
And that would be like city funding covering that, or are you pursuing?
So this is one where we're trying to get ahead of the grant opportunity. So we have kind of the studies have been done. We know what we want to do. And then when the grant funding becomes available, likely this DRPT trip funding, you could apply for it and we can show them exactly what we want to do. Okay, so now these are a few of the items. Ross had provided me with a list of questions that you guys had. I think these are there were 2 or 3 items I think that I deferred to next meeting because Josh and Raymond are up in Minnesota. But these are at least some of the questions that you had asked. So I will kind of work my way through some of these. I don't know if you are the person that asked, you're welcome to kind of jump in and kind of you know, get at what specifically you're interested in, but I'll just kind of give a summary of each of these items if that's okay for now. So the first is the CBA negotiations debrief. I think last time we met, we were in the midst of kind of the CBA negotiations for our next contract with ATU Local 689. We were able to amenably wrap up the negotiations, come to an agreement. I believe it's, gosh, it's another 3 or 4 year, I think it's a 4-year term, I want to say. So we came to an agreement with some significant increases in pay and benefits. And so a lot of other kind of minor changes to the CBA. I think the question that was asked was what the impact would be on Dash passengers. I don't think there's going to be a ton of direct impact. We're hopeful that the new salaries are just much more competitive. Now we're kind of towards the top of the range around the region, so we'll hopefully be more competitive, and we'll have less challenges recruiting drivers. So less shortages, less missed trips, because we're still seeing missed trips due to staffing shortages even now. So we're hopeful that will change as we continue to see more come in the door. Was there any other questions on the CBA?
I had a couple.
Sure.
So the city put it in place, it's a police collective bargaining agreement, I think in the last year, and then subsequently the fire CBA, there were public announcements. So the Alexandria residents said, wow, we can celebrate the fact that our safety organizations, police and fire, were getting significant pay raises, that sort of thing. did I miss the announcement of this one? I've seen no press release, no celebration of Alexandria supporting, you know.
No, you haven't missed
wages.
that, yeah.
Is that a conscious decision?
Honestly,
And I know it was the first one, so this is now the second,
Yeah.
second one, whereas the police and fire was, the very first CBA, if you will. So that may be a difference, but
Yeah.
I am very surprised that there's been no public announcement of it. And I think that's a disservice to the union. I think it's a disservice to the residents that they don't know and can't celebrate that.
Okay.
Just a thought.
Yeah, no, that's
So a little bit of a question, but.
that's something I can bring back to the team and see if they wanna go ahead and do that. Now, I agree, there'd be some better than, most of our messaging, is gonna be towards the recruitment side of it, kind of like, these are the new wages, to try and support that, but I think you raised a really good point though, so.
And then the other issue was obviously, and I, having watched the last monthly Alexandria Transit Company board meeting, I know that there's a supplemental request because the money to fund it for this fiscal year was not in the budget. So there's a significant, I want to say almost $700,000 fiscal year 24 budget request to pay for it this year. But again, with no public announcement, I don't know if that's funding a 3% pay raise or a 5% pay raise for this first year. And I also don't know, I'd be interested in, what's the impact in the fiscal year 25 budget? It's my suspicion is that the union agreed to take a smaller increment this first year because it wasn't in the budget, expecting a significant increase in the second year when the city council has a chance to allocate more money in the budget. But again, none of that is in the public domain, other than the supplemental for this year.
Point taken, yeah, thank you.
Okay, that's all I have on that. And you can talk about staffing, which is the other issue.
Just really quick, so going back to Jim's first point about PR, was just curious as to whether there's any communication about staff shortages and how that's impacting service. You see people, you see missed, stops or routes that have to be shortened or whatever the impacts are from lack of staffing. And I'm wondering if there is any communications going out to the community about, look, this is because of lack of being able to hire.
Yeah, I mean, we are in a much better place than we were a year ago, I would say. I mean, a year ago, we were missing all kinds of, I think we put out some information about that, because it was getting, prior to that, we just didn't miss trips, and then it was happening left and right because of the shortages. So I think we're in a much better place now. I think it's happening less often. I don't know if that's, in terms of our stats, that's what it's showing. I don't know if anecdotally that's what you guys are seeing. Hopefully it's a little bit more reliable than it was about a year ago or 6 months ago. I would say that if the communication would be important to, I mean, I guess it's not something that we focused on outside of the time that it was such a problem. But I mean, a press release, it's like, I'm not sure what we would do.
Yeah, it's a tricky one in terms of how you communicate. It's how you're gonna put it on LinkedIn and post like, hey, we're missing it because, but at the same time, community awareness of like, look.
Due to staff shortages, add that at the end.
I think part of what this points to, though, is an agenda item later, but probably should talk about it, which is the fact that you haven't filled the position of, marketing and public engagement. So your team is actually missing, if you will, that kind of input on your ability to consider these kinds of questions. And I think that's a miss, to be honest, for Dash right now. And so the degree to which you can move that along,
Sure,
because it's been in process for over a year, probably be helpful.
yes, I can talk about that a little bit later, but
Okay,
yeah.
Just want to make that point.
But I think to the point, but when we do miss trips and when we send out our social media, maybe it's due to staffing shortages, so people know it's not just because of some random thing, it's because we're short on operators. I think that's a good takeaway. Okay, was there another question that I'm,
No, I
I think
think
just
that's
operating
right.
staffing,
So
yeah.
just the update on the operating staffing.
Yes, so we are, our target number of operators full-time is 100, around 182. We are currently at about 177. We kind of go up and then we get some attrition, then we come up, we've got, classes of 2 and 3 coming through, and then we lose 2 or 3, and so it's been a battle. But we are getting much closer. We were down around 160, like I said, about a year ago. So we are trending, actually it was 155 at one point. So we are trending in the right direction. But we're not quite to our goal number right now. And because of that, overtime is higher than normally, which creates some budget challenges. So, but we're continuing to be aggressive. Again, like I said, with the new pay rates, we hope that that'll bring more folks in the door. And hopefully we'll get up to that mark. And we usually target a number much higher than that because we lose a lot of people through training. A lot of times we'll have a class of 15 that we come through interviews with, and then through the start dates and through the training process, we go down to 10, then 8, then 5, and 4 graduate. So there's a lot of attrition, and then you have people leaving as well. So we shoot much higher than that 182. So. Okay. ATV implementation, kind of talked about the changes we have coming up this weekend. That is a small step, but a continued step for the ATV. And we will be looking for FY25 to continue advancing those plans as much as we can based on guidance from our leadership and city management. So, I will note that we are in the process, well, the city is in the process of developing a developing an operating plan for the West End Transit Way. That is going to be one of the next big things. As you guys might know, the West End Transit Way runs between Van Dorn and the Pentagon, similar to the 35, but not quite the same. So that is scheduled to begin operations 2027, I think is the last date that I heard. But with the changes, the West End Transit Way doesn't follow the same line as 35, so there would need to be some other route adjustments to the 35 and potentially to Metro bus routes as well. So there's an operation plan that's being developed to reflect that. It'll determine the service levels, the alignments. We're working with the city and Metro bus on what that will look like. There's also the Better Bus Network project that WMATA is doing right now. They're going to be coming out with their year 1 network, which is the near-term network that will also have some implications on that. So what we're going to end up looking at is that we're going to have to basically rework some parts of our long-term 2030 ATV plan to match up with the operations plan for the West End Transit Way and with the Better Bus Network. So we're still aiming towards our 2022 ATV network in the near term, but then longer term with the Better Bus Network and West End Transit Way, we're going to have to make some adjustments. And we'll probably be doing some outreach in the spring for that. Yes.
This has nothing to do with this, but where's the
It's okay.
Where's the bathroom?
Isn't that straight out there? Yeah.
There's a code.
I'm so sorry.
No. Any questions on the ATV?
Has it been decided that the West End Transit Way will or will not have dedicated bus like the Metroway? In other words, the Metroway has a
Just the
dedicated,
configuration, yeah.
Metroway buses, that's the Metroway. That's different than any of the other routes, et cetera. Duke Street, the city's initial discussion during the Duke Street process was all buses that use Duke Street will use the transitway, that there will not be a dedicated and branded, I guess is the word I'm thinking of. There's not be a branded Duke Street Metroway sort of thing. What decision has been made about the West End, do you know?
It's a city project. We still don't know who's going to be operating it, whether that would be Dash, Metro Bus, or someone else. But I don't think that decision was finally made. I think they're waiting for the operations plan to be determined. I would suspect that it will be branded similar to what the 35 is.
So you're anticipating it'll be branded?
I would suspect so. The reason that Duke Street wasn't is because you've got a lot of routes that go other places. They go through the Duke Street corridor, then they go to Old Town or Van Dorn. Whereas the West End Transit Way, for the most part, you'll have a route that's specific to that, similar to the 35. But again, that's a city decision that hasn't happened yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I already kind of talked about free fares reports. Was there any other questions specific to free fares? Looking forward to getting that survey data. And then the last items here kind of,
Just the timing of when you think you'll have survey data that can be shared, and when do you think the free fare report will be on?
so the survey data, the consultant is gonna have the preliminary report in December, at which point we'll be able to kind of use that to start creating our own report. So I would say early next year, January is what we're shooting for the fare fee report, which is later than what we did last year, but that's kind of what we have to do because of the survey.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you for the question. The specific question on the dash marketing campaigns is escaping me, but you know, you mentioned we were
Bonnie, you were the
It
one,
was me.
you raised that question about the marketing campaign, so I
Yeah.
just, go ahead, please.
It was me. I just was wondering, how Dash is marketing its, the service increases in ridership. Are there, I just don't know. Are there radio and TV ads to the extent that they're used? Are there, signs in stores? What is I know you can't go through chapter and verse, but I'm just wondering what are the most effective ways that Dash is marketing the increase in ridership and the new service.
Yeah, in terms of the increase in ridership, I mean, we've tried to kind of highlight the record year with the ridership event and kind of doing press releases and trying to reach out to local media to get some coverage on that. I think our focus though is more on spreading the word about free fares and frequent service and just making sure people know, because it drives me crazy. I still will go out to events and people don't know that Dash is free. So,
I know, me too.
So what we have secured a DRPT grant for this fiscal year that's available to us right now. We're just kind of trying to get the bandwidth to move forward. We have a plan to highlight those free fares, frequent service, new network through video campaigns. These would be mostly on social media with paid advertising, kind of the geolocated areas, but also radio ads, web ads. We also have, what else? I think we're gonna wrap a couple buses. I think there was some mailers as well, I believe, mailers out to the community, which we've done in the past with some success. So it was kind of a multi-tiered campaign that we have scoped out, and we're working closely with the city staff as well, because they are the ones that actually applied for the funding through Go Alex actually is our partner. So that is scoped. We have funding for it, but like we talked about just earlier, we are still trying to get fully staffed. So I can't remember the exact update that I gave last time on the director position.
All right, but before we go there, I want to
Sure.
go back to Kirsten's point earlier, which I think is a very valid one, and that Salma also affirmed, which is if we're now going to get into these campaigns, more publicity,
Yep.
let's make sure that we are now including Dari and Pashto as part of the language in which we're doing the outreach in.
Yeah, I think it's really the population is at this point, like, we sort of, ACPS has always done like at least the three main languages, and like Dari Pashto, I think she'd be considered a top 3 non-English language.
Right.
It's like possibly the second most common language on the West End at this point. And just, sorry, I'm putting my like immigration lawyer policy hat on, like
Go for
there was like an initial thing, but now there's a lot of family unification. So it's gonna be a population that's gonna continue to sort of grow with a variety of English language ability, a spectrum, like for the foreseeable future. So I think realistically, the Afghan population is going to be like a major pillar
Agreed.
group in this community for the next 20 or more years.
Yeah, sure. So this ACPS, so English, Spanish.
They've
and-
always done, I mean, I'm West End, so Patrick Henry, at least for the past at least 10 years, has always done English, Spanish, or Arabic, Spanish, and Amharic. And now they do Dari Pashto, like PT meetings, every school communication. And so I'm pretty sure AC high school does as well. I don't know if all the schools do because there are, residential patterns in that community still, but they will. I mean, but you see it like with the Amharic speaking community as well, like over the generations, like they move throughout the city, like the West End is still home base, but
So I think with, given that we haven't started the campaigns yet, that's completely doable.
And I think it's the kind of thing too, that like when you're pursuing grant applications, when you're talking about that equity and language access.
Yep.
Especially because I think the other thing is, I don't know how Title
6.
Title 6, right, like applies to dash buses, but you guys do receive some federal funding dollars, and I think that there's a real risk that you could be considered, not providing meaningful language access for that community if it doesn't start getting regularly incorporated.
That's super helpful.
I also think, just to piggyback off of, Salma's ideas about, I think in terms of marketing, I just think like,
Talk about
yeah,
languages
sorry.
For marketing, languages for marketing now.
But I also just think marketing with the high schoolers and younger folks and like, PTAs and things like that, like some organic marketing would be a helpful place there too, because so many families and younger people are more likely, I think, you get an early adopter and then they're a bus rider for life, right?
I have something to add on to that. I'm also included in a lot of other committees. I'm peer advocate. I work with sexual assault awareness committee of Alexandria. So they do things like this. They try and find out marketing campaigns for their agendas. And one person that I always bring up is this one teacher who does work at International Academy at AC. His name is Mr. Gabriel Elias. He's extremely connected. Yeah. Extremely. He takes care of the Alex City Titans page, which is our main page. And he has so many connections to everyone, almost every family in International Academy, because he speaks a lot of languages. So I feel like he's a good person to come to as well when it comes to finding out how to market whatever our agenda is. I was in the bathroom, so.
Yeah, you're right. He knows it like literally everyone.
He's really he's also extremely involved in the community. Like he loves going out, trying out new cultures, new things, just to get closer to the students in the community. And I think that he's a great person to use.
Yeah, and we were just talking about a marketing campaign that we're working on to highlight free fares and frequent service.
Like those bus wraps, like Welcome to the West End, that came out in multiple languages. I love those
Yeah,
several years
those
ago.
are
Like I
nice.
would love
Yeah.
to see one of those in Dari Pasto,
Yeah.
So I would take that as a strong recommendation from this committee,
We should-
if I may.
Hearing you
sort
loud
of
and clear,
underscore it.
loud and clear, yep.
There's like a broken record. in
I
every
second
meeting.
the
I'm
bus
like,
wraps. Those are
Bus
really
wraps.
interesting, and I feel like we should also kind of get not even high school students, like even elementary schoolers, middle schoolers to like maybe a competition
Mhm.
to decorate a dash bus to a certain extent. Because I remember every time I'd go take the dash bus to rowing practice at the D Campbell Boathouse, I'd always see up. I think it was some initiative you guys did with your guys' workers. It was like poems, and I kind of thought about it when she brought up
Poetry
the
in
bus
motion.
wraps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's something we could do.
Yeah, so we still do poetry in motion every spring, so that's coming up soon. We have also done handprints on buses. We had like a bus that was gonna be retired, and we had kids with handprints on it as part of Art on the Avenue. We were kind of hoping to do it this year, but it's next weekend and we couldn't make it work. But we are looking at expanding our wraps, because we've seen a lot of other agencies like Ramada has like the Pride wraps and their holiday wraps and all that. And that's something that we want to do as well. So I think there are some opportunities to have some buses that rotate wraps throughout the year. Maybe it's holidays one part, Pride one month, some other campaign.
I
Maybe
feel like
it's a
we
school
should-
contest another
I feel
month.
like we should do school contests and specifically also focus on how diverse Alexandria is. I feel like when I saw the Amharic, I don't speak Amharic, but I know a lot of the people I grew up with do. So I saw, I was like, oh my God, it's Amharic, So it was a really nice thing to see, but I feel like there's a lot of diverse cultures in Alexandria that people have never heard of. Like I remember I was looking at the school profile of AC for my Westbridge application, and it was like there are kids from that speak over all the languages together of like students that speak at AC, they speak over almost 200 languages. And I was like, wow. So I feel like we should kind of do something similar, something to express that diversity.
Could we get like a bus wrap that just says the bus is free and like all of those languages on it?
Like different colors.
So we are working on some decals that say it's 3 different languages, to Spanish and Amharic right now.
Yeah.
But I like that idea.
You probably need a director of marketing, right?
Yes.
It's just that what it.
This is
Like
the next item. Thank you for.
Yes, good
giving us
segue.
that.
Good segue. So the update, we had, so Whitney left, end of last year. She's doing fine, doing great down in South Carolina with her newborn. We had, her position was a manager position, that reported to my position. We had tried to kind of recruit for that a couple times, didn't quite work out. So about 3 or 4 months ago, we changed it. So that's going to be a director level position now. So there's now going to be a director. There is a new department that will combine marketing, public engagement, and customer service. So those kind of customer facing functions will now be under one person. Previously been planning and marketing. So marketing is going from my purview to this new position. So I think that makes a lot of sense. We'll have those kind of combined. Previously, customer service was under finance and admin, which doesn't make all that much sense. So I think it'll be better structurally. We'll have kind of things organized the way they should, but we're still having some challenges recruiting for it. We had one round of recruitment, and we are in the midst of another round. So I guess this is the 4th round. But this position would still be the DAC staff liaison. So once we fill that, I would go back to planning. So it drives me crazy. We have so many good ideas and so many things we want to be doing, and we just don't have the time. I have 2 people that work for me, and they're limited in what they can do.
To make it easier, just appoint me as director.
Just appoint you? Okay. Wow.
There you go. Martin, is it an issue of salary? Is it more than
Originally it was salary. I think now it's just finding the right person. I think the
Okay.
salary issue has been
More
mostly
fit.
addressed. Yeah.
Okay.
It's when we moved up to director, and then there were also some salary increases because with the CBA increases, that affects non-CBA employees as well. So the salaries are now more competitive than they were previously.
So if you were to look into your crystal ball, what do you think is the on-board date?
I'm not part of the recruitment process.
Okay,
So
I will ask
that's
Josh.
Others,
Form the
Josh
committee.
and Raymond is the hiring manager for that one. So
Okay.
when he comes back from Minnesota, I can ask him. Hopefully very, very soon. A lot of holiday outreach that we need to do. And we've got a 40th anniversary coming up in March, and I've had enough event planning to last me quite some time between the last few events, so.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
We went through a lot of stuff here. So we're now in what we call the open forum portion of our meeting. So are there any particular topics that people wish to raise as we look forward? Because remember, we now don't have another meeting until January, and there's a lot of stuff going to happen between now. We can always have another meeting if people wish between now and January. But there's a lot going on, so I think we need to be focused on what we really want to get accomplished both this fall and thinking about sort of the major processes that occur within DASH, the ATV being, one, obviously, the budget process being another that is that this committee has had a lot of influence in and should continue to have influence in. And, other items dealing with transitways, concepts that are there, et cetera. So I'm just sort of putting it out there as to getting a sense from this group of where do we really want to focus over, let's say, the next 4 to 5, 6 months, so that we're optimizing both our talents and time.
I have a more longer term
Okay, go ahead.
item. I just want to see how we could contribute and celebrate the 40th anniversary
Sure.
that we have.
That's a good one.
Great question. We're still recovering from this past weekend, but we have identified at least a date for our celebration. The actual birthday is March 11th. That's a Monday, so the Saturday before March 9th, we're gonna have a big event. We're also probably gonna have some events, more public events leading up to that, but you guys will be invited to a lot of those. We'd love to have you out. I'm sure we'll have a lot of pop-up type events, thank the riders and just celebrate with the community. So, we would love to have you guys come out and help with those. I think one of the initial intentions with this group was that, also they would be, come to these meetings, provide feedback, but also you'd be ambassadors to Dash in the
Right,
community
exactly.
and go out to those events. So, we admittedly have not done a great job of, bringing those events to you, those opportunities to you so far. But hopefully that will change once we get fully staffed and with things like the 40th anniversary. We have a lot of notes from what we've done for the 25th and the 30th. And there's, like I said, a lot of pop-ups, a lot of kind of just celebrations. So yes, I would love to get you guys
Is
involved.
there a planning committee already in place at Dash?
So I started a planning committee because I needed to delegate some things. So I've got a group of about eight folks from different departments. They helped us with the employee event that we just did.
Right.
And they've also started planning. We've also started planning for the 40th celebration.
So would you like to have a member of this committee, not necessarily at every meeting that you have, but at sort of important milestones of that process?
At least like
There for
being tied
input?
in, yeah, for input. I think a lot of the discussion will be about the kind of the employee event. Because that's what the party planning company kind of is for.
Right.
And we aren't, I don't want to officially announce, but we're looking at maybe doing the Masonic Temple and renting that out for that evening. So,
But
obviously.
presumably you want to do then a community event as well.
Right, so the party
that's-
planning committee would kind of focus on that event, but our marketing team would have a lot of other events that we're gonna line up. So I would be great if there are folks that are interested in that kind of stuff in this group, we could kind of tag them as kind of the liaison. You're volunteering?
Volunteering?
All right,
Excellent.
nice. That was easy.
Anyone else?
I would do too if you wanna.
Okay.
All right, excellent, thank you
As a
both.
teenager, you gotta get used to like how to market things. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
I just like cake and desserts though. Okay. You're helping one.
Good taste tester.
Oh wait, there's gonna be cake.
I assume there'll be cake at all these
Coffee,
events.
taste
You got 2 taste testers.
I already called it.
So in terms of thinking about calendars here, so take us through your internal calendar at Dash about sort of the important elements of things like the ATV, the budget process, et cetera, so that we know the crucial points where we need to weigh in, hopefully with some thought in advance. And so that we can begin to develop our own kind of internal calendar for this group as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think in January, when this group meets next, we will have a pretty good sense of, or a better sense of the landscape that we're looking at for budget. The TDP process that we go through usually starts around March. But the budget process for the city starts a lot sooner than that. I'm usually on the kind of the inside side. I'm trying to remember, maybe others might remember, when does the public process for the budget, when does the input start? Do you guys remember? Jim, I don't know if you would, is that kind of January, February?
Yeah, so it's traditionally been mid-February, mid-February
Okay,
15th.
that sounds
and
about
then-
right,
and
Yeah.
This manager for this most recent cycle, I think moved it 2 weeks, so it's more like the end of February.
End of February.
That's
Okay.
when he releases the manager's budget.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And that's when we start working with council members. I put everything on the table. I have already spoken to the city manager at the Dash celebration
did I.
event and said, look, we've had 2 cycles where city council, as part of the add and delete, has had to, which is a very difficult part of the process to make big changes. The city council has voted to put money into advancing the ATV and increasing service 2 years in a row now. Isn't it time that the manager puts it into the manager's budget to increase the ATV? And so if we wait till the February release, then we're dealing with council again. And so
Good.
Don't
I
know
did the
the
same
basis
thing
for Johnson
independent of each
Equipment.
other. We did the same thing. That's very good.
So Ross, Ross is trying to get, so what's the internal timeline
Right,
so we
exactly.
can better impact the manager's decisions?
Precisely.
So I know that the board of directors, I believe, submits a letter to the city manager.
Yeah, I think is
It's
that,
November
November?
or December, somewhere in
Right.
there.
yeah,
somewhere
so
down,
typically
that
the
sounds
manager
about right,
asks all
yeah.
boards and commissions, and last year he
Yeah.
asked the transit company board,
Yeah.
what are your inputs for the budget? What should my
Right, yeah.
priorities be?
Right.
And I think
Yeah.
that his ask comes out in October, and he expects responses in November. Is that right?
That sounds about right.
I think so, yeah. I'll go check the board agendas from last year to see when they produced that letter, but I think it was November.
Yeah, and I will tell you that I've already spoken to the chair and vice chair of the Economic Opportunities Commission, and they anticipate putting advancing the ATV in their letter. Environmental policy maybe as well, talk to their chair. And
So one of the other things I think that would be very, actually, those are all very useful, and thank you, Jim, for doing that. I think one of the other things that might be very useful for our January meeting, if not even earlier, is for us to meet the new transportation director, who was recently appointed by the city manager, obviously somebody coming out of Texas, new to the community, so that we can underscore, as we did with the mayor in July, even though we didn't really need to, but we should, but it was appropriate to do that, the importance, we believe, of Dash as a public utility for the city. So can we get an invitation to her to join us
For January,
for,
Or before
or maybe even before? We could have a special little
I would
hour
say
meeting,
a special one,
a
yeah.
special hour meeting, if that's all right with everyone on this committee, just to meet her and to talk about some of these issues.
Yes.
If we do December 1 in December. Cause I don't know, I'm probably traveling and I don't wanna,
Okay,
yeah.
Before the.
yeah, I would
School
think
break.
mid-November is probably the right way to do it, because that would be timed with the discussions that are gonna be going on for the city manager's budget. Or early November, either way, I guess.
I think early November before Thanksgiving break would be good.
Oh,
'cause
absolutely,
I'm also traveling for Thanksgiving.
that's fine, thank you.
yeah, so I can reach out and are you thinking like a weekday evening, kind of similar to this?
Yeah, I think that would be weekday evening, yeah. Yeah, I think it only needs to be an hour. I mean, if we need to go to City Hall to do that meeting, that's fine, seems to me. You don't have to do it here. If, ideally, it'd be great to have it on home turf here, but happy to travel.
Okay, and then would that meeting then kind of be this group's chance to draft a letter or decide how to
Correct.
influence the city
Correct.
manager's budget? Okay,
Correct.
that makes sense.
Hopefully with some input from Dash in advance as well of that meeting, so we know where things are standing.
Okay,
Does anybody have any difficulties with that plan of action?
So would one of our objectives for that meeting to approve a Dash letter?
That is correct.
I think, so because we want to preserve the free fare.
That's
the federal
correct.
funding ends, when does it end? What month does it end?
so we are, the grant program, well, the funding draws down, it phases down.
Yeah.
And then the last year is fully required to be funded by the city. We are free fare all the way through FY25.
So if we move it from the right to the left of that, the decision sets, I think that's what we're trying to line everything
That's
up
correct.
to match that. So,
Correct.
so if we want to push for being a public utility, then we want to make sure we have the color of money nailed down.
That's correct.
So that's something we should
Yes.
probably be working on now.
Yes,
Okay,
precisely.
okay, tracking. What color money is it when it comes to a utility? Does that come out of the general fund and it's budgeted? Or is it its own, or is it completely fenced?
He's saying as a public utility, where does kind of
That's
utility money come in the
That's our
budget?
that's one of those things that we should be.
Sort of general, it sort of comes out of general funds
Yeah.
of but in categories. You see, that's the problem with the city's budget is you get categorized too quickly.
And we're exactly, no, I'm completely tracking with that, and I think
Yeah.
that's where we should probably spend some time and effort is because we'll have to answer that question probably with not enough notice.
Right.
And I'm trying to get ahead of that.
Right.
If that's a value that we
Yeah.
want to ensure that we keep, so anyways.
Yeah, and as I recall, Josh made a comment, I think it was maybe even 2 years ago now, where he said, at some point, we're probably gonna have to bust out of the transportation budget per se of the city and create our own separate citywide line item. And I know there's controversy around that. But I think that is something that we probably should examine as part of this process that,
25 is not far away.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
At least in government terms.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so we're trying to set up another meeting about a month from now. We're into mid-November with, her name is Adriana Castaneda, I think. So check with her, set that up, and then during that meeting, we'll also have a letter, or we'll draft the outline of a letter.
Right.
That would kind of convey to the city manager the priorities for his FY25 budget.
yeah. Agreement?
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay, anything else people want to bring up now?
And two, one you've taken care of, which was, I found it valuable to have the mayor here last time, and I was gonna suggest we think about periodically inviting guest speakers.
Yes.
And I think for the near term, you've done that, but I wanted to mention it as the DAC members you're thinking about, for January or the next meeting after that, are there guest speakers?
Yep.
That
Good thought.
you might want to have. So that's one quick one, just, it's kind of a food for thought thing. And then, Ross, while you were out, we started discussing the fact that the city has, bringing back near term, the city has right now an open portal for commenting on the King Street, section of King Street between Quaker and Minokan,
Right.
including that a service road at the Bradley
Yep.
Center. And Bonnie and I walked it last week. She lives in that area and west of Minokan, shops at Safeway, and so has a lot of firsthand experience trying to catch the westbound bus. And so it was useful for the two of us anyway, to think about that of how could you improve that area for bus service? And so I asked if we hadn't had time here for Martin to sort of say what are his inputs or what are Dash's inputs is what he would like to see. What he mentioned again while you were out of the room, was that right now, that service road and all of the interactions at the various intersections really create delays that are disruptive to Dash's reliability. So that's the problem statement. I don't know if you have, what do you want to see as a solution? I guess it's like.
Well, yeah, I want to be careful because it's very early in the process. They're drafting the concept, but from a bus operator standpoint, that is probably the second worst section of the city behind Telegraph Road here. Just in terms of delays that we see, and we run, just to reiterate some of the points I made earlier, we run so much service through there. We have two highly frequent routes, the 31 and 36 run through. We have a lot of students riding through there. We have 500 daily boardings or more at Bradley Shopping Center every day. And these especially the service road, because we have to serve the service road in order for people to be able to board on both sides. So we have to use the service road, and that just the way the sequence of lights there, the way the traffic patterns are set up, it just takes so long. It takes like almost 10 minutes to get from basically Minokan through 5 Points. It's just crazy. So if you were to pick one area of the city to invest in and get the most bang for your buck out of in terms of improvements for bus riders, in terms of total savings, per rider savings, that would be probably one of the top corridors. It would be one of the top corridors. So certainly things like signal prioritization, that's just the minimum, I would say. I mean, other things like partial dedicated lanes or for parts of the corridor or the full corridor there, would also be hugely advantageous. Also, you know, I mean, well, I'll stop there, but I mean, there are a lot of pedestrian safety implications too. So if you were to have something like a center running dedicated lane, you'd have much easier access from both sides of the street. And you could have better crosswalks. I know I forget who was it, who was talking, or Bonnie was talking about it, how the crosswalks at Bradley are just not used. It's just a pedestrian safety nightmare. So things like that, you know, all of our riders are pedestrians before they get on our buses. So we need to, you know, be doing that as well. So yes,
This
please.
could be a very timely topic for our since we're going to have the transportation director here.
Yeah, the portal closes October 20th, so she'll, and again, this is, we mentioned earlier right now,
Right.
but for you and on that, this is the public engagement to inform a grant application
Right.
for something that's gonna occur many years from now. So unlike Duke Street, it's not something that can be turned into action right away, but, yeah.
Fair enough.
That was,
At a minimum, I can send out the links to this group so that everybody who, you know, uses buses or.
yeah, no, that was helpful to get your perspective,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thanks.
Should I haven't taken the survey yet?
I will say, I have actually walked from, I can't remember the name of the street, well, Minokan, not Minokan, the next one, to, yeah, Deering, to the grocery store and made it faster than the bus.
I believe it.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, there's like 4 different entrances to that shopping center, you know, so there's just all kinds of ways that pedestrians have to be just really, really careful. I will say that the crosswalk at, you know, up by the bank, that does get used. I mean, we do use it. I've seen lots of other people use it. You just don't use it in conjunction with the bus.
Good. Okay. So one of the other issues that we tabled because we didn't have the appropriate people here, and Martin didn't want to speak out of turn, which I think was appropriate, was the issue that we discussed with the mayor in July about whether, and actually he seemed more interested even than perhaps we were with the idea of making the transition from the yellow school buses, at least for Alexandria City High School, maybe even perhaps the middle school, to Dash taking over that responsibility, and how the cash would flow from the public school system budget into the Dash budget to take care of this. So this is a live topic, which Martin suggested that Raymond and Josh might wish to participate in the discussion. So in all likelihood, that will be
January.
calendared for January.
One of the things that I know a little bit about federal funding, and the thing is, now that Dash is taking federal funds for buses, we have to abide by federal standards, and one of the federal standards that they're pretty strict about is basically not earmarking buses for school buses during peak hour. So that's, you know, you could be operating, well, like we currently have the 31s and the 36s that pick up people along the way. And you can have more of those regular buses, but they cannot be identified as school buses. They have to be, you gotta have them freely, they have to freely have, everybody has to be admitted.
So
into
Washington
it.
DC uses public buses, not school buses, right?
Yeah.
But they're public
yeah,
buses,
but-
anybody can use
Yeah,
it.
exactly,
Right.
exactly,
And
yeah.
same-
Yeah,
same thing
so
in-
that's the big distinction though.
Yeah,
And we can't say that we're just using all these the monies that would be used for the ACPS for Dash. that wouldn't work. The
Right.
feds would not appreciate
Got
that would not work.
So,
She was first.
I actually had a slightly related thing, but it's not about schools. It's about an email I got about like sports activities and like I got a parent interest survey about a dash buses, dedicated dash bus or something, circulator for like kids' sports activities, which I'd like not heard of, and I didn't know if it was on Dash's radar or if it's like,
For
eh,
ACHS or ACPS?
no, it's like ASA. I got it a while ago.
We offer charter service
Okay,
sometimes, so.
so I don't know. Anyways, I was just curious about it because I hadn't heard anything.
This idea of having kind of like the city buses kind of like take place for school buses. I've seen that, I haven't firsthand seen the idea play out, but I've had friends across the pond in Australia.
right,
They told me, they were like, you guys really have like big yellow buses. I'm like, yeah, we do. And they're like, it's strictly for school. They're like, I'm like, yeah. And she told me that in her city in Australia, at least, it's north of Sydney. I forgot the name of the city, but no, it was a smaller thing. It was between Brisbane and Sydney, but it was a small
Right.
city. They used some of their city buses, they use it for just the schools. They have like a specific time and they have specific stops and they don't go anywhere else but those school and that stop. So I see it playing out, but then when Mr. Jim brought up federal rules, I don't think we should mess with the feds.
But
Yeah.
in the United States, in addition to Washington DC, I lived in Hawaii for a couple of years while our daughter was in high school. And that was her transportation, was the public bus.
Right.
Again, there were no school buses in Hawaii. The public bus routes were set up so that they would serve the public, including students to the high schools. And that's what the mayor, when he was here 3 months ago, said he would like to see Dash be providing the service that the public bus service that would also better serve high school students.
I think the idea is because of the way ACPS is funded and it's like in conjunction with the city budget, right? Like that if you can
Yeah, they could.
reduce funding
Right.
for school buses by improving service and
I think it was a great
reliability.
topic for January.
We can ask about.
and there also is, I sent to several of you, I'm not sure I sent it to the entire committee, for several articles about micro transit activities that are going on in communities around the country. Like Wilson, North Carolina, actually abolished their public transit system of buses and went to micro transit of vans. And it's point-to-point destination activities, which I thought was kind of interesting. I mean, obviously, it's not gonna work here per se, but it could be something that could be a supplement. You know, to go back to your idea about picking kids up from, sports activities, et cetera, that might be a potential idea.
Yeah, I don't know what Martin would say about this, but I know how you brought up they offer, Dash does offer like something like charter stuff. So I feel like that would go as a great way for charter. I've been to Wilson, North Carolina before. Coincidentally, they have this one burger place. I forgot the name of it, but it's
Yeah, I've
in
been to
my-
Wilson too.
Yeah, it's not really the biggest city. It's not really Alexandria standards for
It's 85,000 right now,
Yeah,
actually, though. It's
I
grown a
mean,
lot.
but I feel like we could implement that with charter, like, oh, is there like an event like a lot of people go to in the community, maybe Dash can do something with, for instance, if there's like, let's say an ASA championship and there's just a lot of people
Right.
from all around the area, and that could be something
Yep.
that we could do.
Good point.
And one more, very quick,
Go ahead,
very quick,
please.
It's on the related topic related to marketing, and just a bit of a kudo. I think Dash, even without your marketing director, has been pretty proactive about advertising Dash availability for special events. I haven't seen any for Art in the Avenue, which is coming up.
It's coming,
but
it's
for
coming, we're
events
working
like
on it.
that, You know,
Yeah, I
the
think that's
birthday
right.
celebration, take the Dash, this
Nice.
event, take the Dash.
Highly recommend taking Dash to the turkey trot, like I would
Yeah, so
suggest putting
I
that
just,
out there.
I just want to
Probably
give
the
some
mayor wants to be
kudos
behind
for
that one.
Yep.
for that.
Agreed.
Thank you. And if you're going to Arden Avenue, the 33 will be rerouted, but there will be specific temporary stops along Commonwealth Avenue, so you can take line 33 to the Arden Avenue this Saturday.
Thanks.
Other comments people wish to make, other topics to bring up? Otherwise, I will take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Do we want to set a
Go ahead,
date
please.
for January, or do you want to try to do that at the special meeting? in
Why don't we do that at
November?
the special meeting, I think, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's fine with me. I don't know if everyone's gonna be able to make that meeting or not, but
Oh, okay.
it doesn't matter.
I mean,
So,
The New Year's is the first Tuesday of the month is the second, which I don't know if people are still gonna be away. So we could be looking at January 9th, which is the following Tuesday. Would that work for most people?
Better.
If you
That
wanna set a
works.
date- If you want to set a date now, let's do that. January 9th?
That works.
It's fine.
Okay.
That'll be the day before the
Thank you.
January board meeting, but that should be fine.
More impactful for the board meeting too. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Bye.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Very productive meeting. And welcome Salma again.
It was nice meeting you all.
yeah, it's nice to meet you.